I should have known something was wrong the moment my best friend stopped smiling. Not the nervous, happy kind of shaky smile you wear on a wedding day. Not the "can you believe this is happening" grin that makes your cheeks ache. No, this was different. This was the kind of expression you see right before a storm breaks, like she was standing on the edge of a secret so heavy it was bending her spine. I was in the bridal suite, wrapped in white satin and pins and perfume, and everyone kept telling me I looked like a dream. But dreams don't have hands that won't stop trembling. Mina stood behind me, hovering near the vanity. Her dress was a deep emerald that made her eyes look brighter, but her eyes were the problem. They weren't bright at all. They were wet, like she was holding back a flood with nothing but stubbornness. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to laugh it off. "If you cry before me, I'm kicking you out." She didn't laugh. She swallowed, and I watched her throat bob like she was forcing something sharp down. "Can we talk?" she whispered. I glanced around. My mom was fussing with my veil, my cousin was filming a ridiculous bride reveal TikTok, and the makeup artist was packing up her brushes. The room smelled like hairspray and roses and the warm sugar of the cupcakes downstairs. "Mina, whatever it is, it can wait," I said gently. "It's literally my wedding day." Her fingers twisted around the small clutch in her hand. Then she took a step closer and leaned down so only I could hear. "I've been hiding something from you," she said. The words hit me like a cold glass of water thrown straight into my chest. I blinked at my reflection. My lipstick was perfect. My lashes were perfect. The delicate pearls on my neckline were perfect. Everything was so carefully arranged, it felt impossible for anything bad to enter this room. "What do you mean?" My voice came out thinner than I expected. Mina's eyes snapped to the door, as if she was afraid someone might be listening. Then she looked back at me, and the wetness finally spilled, just one tear, sliding down her cheek like a confession. "I didn't want to ruin today," she whispered. "But you deserve to know before you walk down that aisle." A slow, crawling dread rose up my spine. I turned on the stool so I could face her fully. "Mina, stop. You're scaring me." She took my hands in hers. Her palms were icy. "Promise me you won't just dismiss it. Promise me you'll listen." My heart started knocking hard against my ribs, like it was trying to escape. "I promise," I said. "Tell me." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again. Like the truth had teeth. "Finally," she said, "there's something about Hamza. The name alone should have made me glow." Hamza, the man I'd loved for 3 years, the man waiting downstairs in a tailored suit, the man who'd held my face in his hands last night and told me he couldn't believe he was marrying his best friend. Instead, my stomach tightened. "What about him?" I asked, my voice sharper now, defensive by instinct. Mina flinched like she expected me to slap her. "I saw something," she said. "And I didn't know how to tell you. I kept thinking I was wrong. I kept thinking I misunderstood." "Mina," I hissed, glancing around again. My mother was still adjusting my veil, unaware. My cousin was still filming. Everyone was still floating around in the bubble of celebration. "Not here," I said. "Not in front of everyone." Mina nodded quickly. She grabbed my elbow and guided me toward the attached bathroom. It was quieter there, tiled and echoing, with a small window letting in a slice of sunlight. My bouquet sat on the counter, white lilies and baby's breath, and the silver mirror frame caught the light like a blade. The bathroom felt like a completely different world. The moment the door shut, Mina's face crumpled. "What did you see?" I demanded, and I hated how desperate I sounded. She reached into her clutch. Her fingers shook so hard it took her 2 tries to pull something out. When she finally placed it in my hand, it was a small velvet pouch, black, worn, the kind you'd keep jewelry in. "What is this?" I asked. Mina's voice was barely a breath. "Open it." My hands felt numb. I loosened the drawstring, and something cold slid into my palm. A ring. Not my ring. Not the delicate diamond band Hamza had slipped on my finger last month. This ring was heavier, older, with a dark stone in the center, almost black like dried blood. My throat went dry. Why do you have this? Mina looked like she might be sick. Because I found it in his jacket. What? I stared at her. Hamza's jacket? She nodded. Last week, at the engagement dinner, he hung it over the chair, and it fell, and this dropped out. I picked it up before anyone saw. I turned the ring over, staring at the inside. There were initials engraved. M+H. I blinked hard. This is mine? I asked, though I already knew it wasn't. Mina and Hamza. M and H, Mina, I said, slowly, the word tasting wrong. Why would your initials be on a ring in his pocket? Her mouth opened, and for a second her face looked almost like guilt. Not just fear, guilt. I didn't engrave it, she said quickly. I swear. I didn't even know it existed until I found it. My heart started racing faster. Okay, I said, forcing myself to breathe. Maybe it's a gift. Maybe it's for me? Mina interrupted, her voice cracking. Silence. That silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I stared at the ring again, like if I looked hard enough it would change into something innocent. Like if I blinked, the engraving would disappear. Like if I held my breath, the whole moment would rewind. But the letters stayed. M+H. My hands started to shake. Why would Hamza have a ring with your initials? I repeated, slower, each word heavier than the last. Mina's eyes filled again. Because, she whispered, I think he's been planning something. And I think it involves you not being his bride. My vision tunneled. My ears rang. You're not making sense, I said, though my voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Say it clearly. Mina, say what you mean. She took a deep, trembling breath. I think he's been lying to you, she said. And I think he's been using this wedding for something else. I clutched the ring so tightly it hurt. The metal bit into my skin. The dark stone gleamed like an eye watching me. What's something else? I demanded. Mina hesitated, and that hesitation was a knife. Then she said, There's a document. I saw it on his laptop, and your name was on it. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might collapse right there on the bathroom tiles in my wedding dress. A document? I whispered. Mina nodded. And the title, her voice broke. The title said, Transfer of Ownership. The world tilted. Ownership of what? My mouth opened, but no sound came out. My breath felt trapped behind my ribs. Mina reached for me, but I stepped back instinctively, pressing against the counter where my bouquet sat, those white lilies staring up at me like funeral flowers. Show me, I said, voice shaking. Show me what you saw. Mina's hands flew up. I don't have it, she pleaded. I only saw it for a second. He came back into the room and what? I snapped, and I pretended I was looking for the bathroom. Mina said, tears sliding down now. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to tell you without destroying everything. A laugh escaped me, sharp, ugly. Destroying everything? I repeated. Mina, I'm about to walk into a room full of people and legally bind my entire life to him. She flinched. I know. That's why I'm telling you now. My eyes flicked back to the ring, dark stone, heavy metal. Engraved promise, M+H. A symbol, not of love, of a plan. I stared at Mina, my best friend, the person I trusted with every secret I'd ever had, and suddenly one terrifying thought crept into my mind, slow and poisonous. What if? I whispered, my voice barely audible. What if this isn't about him using me? Mina's face went still. What if, I continued, my throat closing, this is about you and him? Mina's lips parted like she wanted to deny it, but she didn't. And in that moment I realized the truth was much bigger than a ring. And whatever it was already moving, like a door that had been unlocked weeks ago, like a trap that had already been set. And I was standing in my white dress, minutes away from stepping right into it. Mina didn't answer my question right away. That silence, just 2 seconds long, was enough to make my whole body go cold. Because denial is fast, innocent people rush to defend themselves. But Mina just stood there, staring at the ring in my palm like it was a live grenade. "Minna," I said again, slower, each syllable cracking. "Tell me the truth. Is this about you and him?" Her throat worked. She pressed her fingers to her lips like she was trying to keep something from spilling out. And then, finally, she whispered, "It's not what you think." I let out a laugh that sounded nothing like me. That's what people say when it's exactly what I think. She shook her head hard, tears flinging off her lashes. "Listen to me, please. I didn't come here to steal him. I didn't come here to what?" I snapped. "To warn me? Because you suddenly grew a conscience on my wedding day?" Her face crumpled like I'd slapped her. And I hated myself for it, because I loved her. Mina was my oldest friend, the person who held my hair when I got sick in college, the person who slept on my floor when my first heartbreak shattered me, the person who knew every version of me, even the ugly ones. But love doesn't stop betrayal from bleeding. "Mina," I said, forcing my voice down, forcing air into my lungs. "Start from the beginning. Right now. Don't skip anything." Her hands trembled as she wiped her cheeks. "Okay," she breathed. "Okay. I'll tell you everything." She looked at the bathroom window, the slice of sunlight, like she needed something solid to hold on to. "It started 3 months ago," she said, "when Hamza asked me to help him with the wedding." I frowned. "Help him? Like planning?" She nodded quickly. "He said he wanted it to be perfect for you, that you deserved something, bigger than what you were expecting. He kept saying you've sacrificed so much, and he wanted to give you the kind of life you've never had." My stomach tightened because that was exactly how Hamza talked. He always sounded like he was building a dream with words. "And then?" I demanded. Mina swallowed. "He started asking questions," she said. "Not about flowers or venues. About your finances." My blood ran sharp and hot. "My finances?" "Yes," Mina said softly. "Your inheritance. Your father's property. That trust your grandfather set up." My fingers tightened around the ring again. The dark stone pressed into my skin like a bruise forming. I heard my own voice, thin and disbelieving. "Why would he ask you about that?" "Because," Mina whispered, "he knew I knew." I stared at her. "I told you those things because you're my best friend." "I know." Mina's voice shook. "And I hate myself for it. I should have shut him down immediately. I should have told you the first time. But he made it sound normal, like he was just trying to understand what kind of future you both had." My mouth went dry. "So, you told him." Mina flinched. "Not everything. Just bits." "Because he already knew some of it. He'd heard you mention your dad's land. He'd heard you talk about the trust. He just wanted details." My heartbeat pounded against my ribs like it was trying to break out, "and you gave him the details." "I didn't realize," she began. "Stop," I said, voice sharp as glass. "You realized." "You're not stupid, Mina. You realized he was digging." Mina's tears came faster now. "I wanted to believe he loved you," she whispered. "I wanted to believe it was innocent. And then things started getting weird." "Weird how?" "He asked me to meet him," she said, "alone." My stomach flipped. "He said he needed help picking a surprise gift for you," Mina continued quickly, like if she spoke fast enough it would sound less ugly. "I met him at this jewelry store downtown, and he bought something." My fingers went numb. I stared at the ring again. "This?" Mina nodded. "Yes." My breath caught. "He bought a ring for you." "No." Mina grabbed my wrists, eyes wide. "Not for me. Not like that. He said it was symbolic." "Symbolic of what?" I hissed. Mina looked down, ashamed. He said it was a promise ring, a way of saying thank you." "For what?" I demanded. "For helping him steal my life?" Mina's shoulders shook. for helping him get everything in place, she whispered. My vision blurred. Everything in place for what, Mina? She looked up at me then, eyes raw and terrified. For the marriage, she said. For the legal parts. A cold, sick realization crawled through me. The document. Transfer of ownership. My name on it. Something inside me snapped. I turned and yanked the bathroom door open. Mina, wait, she cried, grabbing my arm. But I was already stepping into the bridal suite, my heart hammering so loudly I could barely hear the laughter around me. Everyone turned. My cousin stopped filming. My mom froze mid-adjustment of the veil. What's wrong? My mom asked instantly, eyes scanning my face like she could read danger in the cracks. I forced a smile so sharp it hurt. Nothing. I lied, breathless. I just need a minute. My mom's eyebrows pulled together. Honey, I'm fine, I repeated, too quickly. I grabbed my phone off the vanity with shaking fingers. Then I turned back to Mina, who stood in the doorway like a ghost. Give me your phone, I said. Her eyes widened. Why? Because you said you saw the document, I snapped, and I'm not walking down that aisle until I see something concrete. Mina hesitated. I could see the war inside her, fear of betraying him versus fear of losing me. Finally, she handed it over. My fingers flew across the screen. I wasn't even fully thinking, just moving on instinct like a woman trying to pull herself out of quicksand. What are you doing? Mina whispered. I opened my own messages with Hamza. My last text to him was a selfie from last night, me in pajamas holding my engagement ring up to the camera. I'd captioned it, tomorrow, forever. His reply, forever. I can't wait to call you my wife. I stared at it now, and it felt like poison disguised as honey. I typed, where are you right now? 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Downstairs. About to come up. You okay? My hands shook. I typed, did you have Mina's ring engraved? The dots disappeared. Then, nothing. No dots. No reply. That silence was louder than any confession. Mina's face went pale behind me. Oh my God, she whispered. I stared at the screen like my eyes could force the truth out of it. Then my phone buzzed. A new message. But it wasn't from Hamza. It was from an unknown number. Don't marry him. Check the envelope in your bouquet. My blood turned to ice. I looked slowly at the bouquet still sitting on the bathroom counter, white lilies and baby's breath. It had felt like decoration. Now it felt like a warning. And suddenly, the symbolism hit me like a punch. Lilies weren't just wedding flowers. They were funeral flowers, too. My fingers trembled as I walked back into the bathroom and reached for the bouquet. Mina stepped closer, whispering, "What is it? What's happening?" I didn't answer. I dug into the flowers carefully, trying not to destroy them, until my fingers brushed something stiff, tucked between the stems. An envelope, cream-colored, sealed. My name written across the front in a familiar hand. Hamza's handwriting. My throat closed. Because if Hamza had hidden this in my bouquet, then he had planned this moment. He had planned this secret. And someone else, had decided I deserved to know it before I said I do. I slid my finger under the seal. Mina leaned over my shoulder, trembling. I pulled out a single folded sheet of paper, and the first line on it made my knees go weak. This marriage is the final step. The paper shook so violently in my hands that Mina had to steady it with her fingers. This marriage is the final step. I read the line again. And again. Like repetition might soften it. Like maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something less terrifying if I stared long enough. They didn't. My mouth went dry as I continued reading. Once we are legally bound, the transfer becomes automatic. No suspicion. No resistance. My knees buckled, and I dropped onto the edge of the bathtub, the silk of my dress pooling around me like a broken halo. "Mina," I whispered. "Read this." She took the paper, her eyes moving fast, then slower, horror spreading across her face. Oh my God, she breathed. He was planning everything. I snatched the letter back, rage and fear colliding in my chest. The words blurred as I read on. You trust me. That's why this works. My stomach lurched. Love is leverage. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. This isn't real, I whispered. This has to be fake. Someone's messing with me. This is some sick joke. But even as I said it, I knew. The handwriting was his. The phrasing was his. That cold, calculated confidence hiding behind charm. It was unmistakable now. I flipped the page over. There was more. Once the assets are secured, the rest will be easy. She'll never see it coming. She, not my name, just she. Like I was an object, a transaction, a final box to check. Something inside me broke so cleanly it felt almost quiet. All those nights he'd held my hand. All those promises whispered in the dark. All those times he'd told me I was safe with him. Love is leverage. I laughed then, low, hysterical, frightening even to myself. My God, I said hoarsely. He never loved me. Mina crouched in front of me, her face streaked with tears. I think he thought he did. At first. But somewhere along the way, he stopped seeing you as a person. I stared at her. And you? Her face crumpled. I didn't know how deep it went, she whispered. I swear. I thought it was just paperwork, legal stuff. I didn't know he was using you. The room felt like it was closing in. Downstairs, I could hear faint music, guests arriving, laughter, the low hum of anticipation. My wedding was still happening. I need proof, I said suddenly. Mina blinked. You have proof. No, I said, standing abruptly. I need proof that will destroy him, something he can't talk his way out of. Her eyes widened. What are you planning? I grabbed my phone again. My fingers flew. I typed. I found the envelope. This time the reply was immediate. What envelope? I felt my lips curl. The one you hid in my bouquet. The dots appeared, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, you're stressed. We can talk after the ceremony. My hands shook with fury. No ceremony, Hamza. Explain the letter. Several seconds passed. Then you weren't supposed to see that yet. The room spun. I held the phone up so Mina could see. She gasped. Oh my God. Yet? I typed back. There's a better time to tell me you're stealing my life? No reply. Then my phone rang. His name lit up the screen. Mina grabbed my wrist. Don't answer, she whispered. I answered anyway. What the hell is this? I demanded before he could speak. There was a pause on the other end. Then his voice, calm, familiar, terrifyingly steady. You're overreacting, he said. Something inside me snapped completely. Overreacting? I laughed. You wrote that marrying me was the final step. The final step to what, Hamza? Stripping me bare? He exhaled slowly. Listen to me. You don't understand the full picture. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. You needed access. You needed legality. You needed my signature. You needed stability, he corrected. You needed someone who could handle your assets responsibly. I froze. Handle? I repeated. You're emotional, he said gently. You make impulsive decisions. I was going to protect everything. Protect you. Protect me. From myself, I felt physically sick. You were going to take everything I own, I said, and call it love. Silence. Then, quietly, marriage is partnership. No, I said. Marriage is consent. And you planned to remove mine. I heard movement on his end. Voices. Someone calling his name. I'm coming upstairs, he said. We shouldn't do this over the phone. My pulse thundered. Don't, I warned. I can explain, he insisted. You're making this bigger than it is. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. The white dress, the veil, the woman I'd been an hour ago, hopeful, glowing, naive. That woman was gone. You planned to trap me, I said coldly. And now you're exposed. I loved you, he said. I almost laughed again. You loved what I could give you, I replied. And now everyone's going to know it. I hung up. Mina stared at me. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath. I'm going to walk down that aisle, I said. Her eyes went wide. What? I'm not canceling, I continued. Not yet. He wants legality? He wants witnesses? He wants a performance? I met her gaze, something hard and steady settling into my chest. I'll give him one. Downstairs, the music shifted, the cue for the ceremony. My mother knocked softly on the door. Sweetheart, she called. It's time. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into the bodice of my dress, right over my heart. Symbolism struck me then, white for innocence, lilies for endings, vows for truth, and truth once spoken can't be taken back. I opened the door. My mother smiled, eyes shining. You look beautiful. I smiled back. So do funerals, I said quietly. She didn't hear me. As I stepped toward the aisle, I saw him at the altar, Hamza, standing tall, confident, smiling like a man about to win something. He met my eyes, and for the first time his smile faltered. Because he could see it. He could see that I knew, and the final step? It wasn't his anymore. The music swelled as I stepped into the aisle. Every face turned toward me, smiling, misty-eyed, glowing with expectation. Phones lifted, hands clasped. Someone whispered. She looked stunning. I walked slowly, each step deliberate, like I was counting down to something inevitable. The aisle runner felt too soft beneath my shoes, like it was trying to cushion a fall that was already coming. Hamza stood at the altar, hands folded neatly, jaw tight. His eyes tracked me with a strange mixture of relief and alarm. Relief that I was here. Alarm because something in my posture didn't match the script. He leaned toward the officiant and murmured something. The officiant nodded, smiling benignly, oblivious. I reached the front and took my place across from him. Up close I could see it, the faint sheen of sweat on Hamza's temples, the way his fingers flexed and unflexed like he was bracing for impact. You okay? He whispered, a practiced concern coding every syllable. I smiled. Never better. The officiant began, voice warm and ceremonial, words about love. Commitment, trust. Trust. The word echoed in my skull like a cruel joke. Hamza reached for my hands. I let him take them, feeling the familiar warmth of his skin. It made my stomach turn. As the officiant spoke about unity and shared futures, my eyes drifted to the guests. My mother sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. My aunt leaned into her husband, smiling. Mina stood off to the side, pale but steady, watching me with something like awe. She knew what was coming. Hamza squeezed my hands gently. See? He whispered. Everything's okay. I met his eyes. You should have run. His brow creased. What? The officiant cleared his throat. Now, he said cheerfully, before we proceed with the vows, does anyone have anything they wish to share? I felt the room hold its breath. I stepped forward, releasing Hamza's hands. I do, I said. A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Hamza turned toward me sharply. This isn't part of the ceremony, he hissed under his breath. I smiled wider. It is now. The officiant blinked. Would you like a moment after? No, I said, my voice carrying farther than I expected. I'd like a moment now. I reached into my dress and pulled out the folded letter. The sound of paper unfolding was impossibly loud. This morning I continued. I was supposed to be the happiest woman in the room. I was supposed to walk into a marriage built on love and honesty. I looked directly at Hamza. Instead, I found a plan. Murmurs rippled through the guests. Hamza's face drained of color. Stop, he whispered. You don't know what you're doing. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing, I said calmly. I'm reclaiming my life. The officiant looked alarmed. Perhaps we should take a pause, no? My mother said suddenly, standing. Let her speak. I hadn't expected that. My throat tightened for a split second before I continued. This letter, I said, holding it up, was hidden in my bouquet. Written by the man standing in front of me. Gasps, sharp inhales. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Hamza shook his head frantically. "She's confused," he said, forcing a laugh. "Wedding nerves," I read aloud. "This marriage is the final step." The words seemed to strike him physically. He flinched. "Once we are legally bound, the transfer becomes automatic." A stunned silence fell. "What transfer?" Someone called out. I turned slightly, addressing the room. "My assets, my inheritance, everything my family spent generations building." My mother's face went white. Hamza lunged toward me. "Give me that." I stepped back. Mina moved instinctively between us. "Touch her," Mina said, voice steady as steel, "and I swear you'll regret it." The officiant stepped aside, utterly out of his depth. I kept reading. "Love is leverage." That was the moment everything shattered. My mother let out a broken sound. A few guests stood up. Others stared at Hamza like he'd transformed into something unrecognizable. "That's not what I meant," Hamza said loudly. "You're twisting it. It was taken out of context." I folded the letter. "There is no context where that sentence is love." He turned to the crowd, desperate. "This is private. She's humiliating me." I laughed, clear, ringing, unafraid. "No, you humiliated yourself when you decided my heart was a key you could use to unlock my life." Someone clapped. Then another. It started slow, uncertain, then grew. Applause. Not for him. For me. Hamza's mouth opened, then closed. He looked around, searching for an ally. He found none. "This wedding is over," I said simply. The officiant nodded, relieved. "I believe that is clear." Hamza's voice dropped to a snarl. "You'll regret this." I leaned close enough that only he could hear me. "The only thing I regret is not seeing you sooner." Security, friends of my uncle, stepped forward quietly, escorting Hamza away as he protested, his voice echoing uselessly. The doors closed behind him with a final, resonant thud. Silence. Then my mother rushed forward, wrapping me in her arms. "You did the right thing," she whispered fiercely. I pressed my face into her shoulder, breathing in the scent of her perfume. Home, safety, truth. Mina approached slowly, eyes shining. "I'm so sorry," she said, "for everything." I pulled her into the embrace, too. "You told me," I said. "That's what matters." The guests lingered, unsure. The music had stopped. The flowers suddenly felt like they belonged to another life. I stepped forward once more. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Today didn't turn out how we planned, but it turned out how it needed to. People nodded. Some wiped tears. Some smiled sadly. As the room slowly emptied, I stood alone at the altar. The place where I'd almost given everything away. The place where I chose myself instead. And for the first time all day, I felt something like peace. The venue emptied slowly, like a tide pulling back from shore, leaving behind the debris of what could have been. Chairs sat half-turned. Programs lay abandoned on the floor. The arch of flowers at the altar, once a symbol of beginnings, now looked like a question mark made of petals. I stayed. I didn't know why at first. Maybe because leaving felt like admitting defeat. Maybe because I needed to stand in the wreckage long enough to understand what I'd survived. My mother offered to take me home. Mina offered to sit with me. Everyone offered something. I asked for time, alone. The coordinator approached carefully, voice soft. "We can. Clear the space when you're ready. Give me 10 minutes, I said. She nodded and disappeared. I walked back down the aisle by myself. Each step echoed now, louder without music, without applause, without illusion. The white runner was wrinkled where I'd stopped earlier, where everything had cracked open. At the end of the aisle, I sat in the front row and stared at the altar. I thought about all the decisions that led me here. Every time I'd ignored a flicker of discomfort. Every moment I'd brushed aside a question because love felt easier than doubt. Hamza hadn't become a monster overnight. He'd revealed himself slowly, and I'd helped him by believing the version of him that loved me. My phone buzzed in my hand. A message from an unknown number. "You did the right thing. I'm sorry I didn't warn you sooner." My heart jumped. I typed back with shaking fingers, "Who is this?" Several seconds passed. Then, someone who almost married him too. My breath caught. I stared at the screen, pulse racing. "What do you mean?" 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Then the message came. 5 years ago. Different city. Same promises. Same charm. Different woman with something he wanted. My chest tightened painfully. "Why didn't you stop him?" I typed. The reply came slower this time. "Because I didn't realize what he'd done until it was too late. He emptied my accounts before I even understood what was happening. When I tried to fight him, he vanished. Changed cities. Changed stories. A chill ran through me. Why help me now?" A pause. "Then, because today I saw your wedding announcement online, and I recognized the pattern." Tears filled my eyes, not of fear this time, but of something sharper. Anger mixed with gratitude. "Thank you," I typed. "You saved me." Another pause. "You saved yourself." I just nudged the door. The conversation ended there. I sat back, exhaling slowly. The symbolism hit me then, heavy and unavoidable. The aisle wasn't just a path toward a partner. It was a test, and I'd stopped walking before it consumed me. Footsteps echoed behind me. I turned to see Mina approaching cautiously, holding 2 cups of water. "I figured you might need this," she said, offering one. I took it, my fingers brushing hers. We sat together in silence for a moment. "I don't know how to fix what I broke," she said quietly. "But I want to try." I looked at her, the fear, the remorse, the courage it took to stand up when it mattered. "Truth is a start," I said. "Consistency will be the rest." She nodded, tears slipping down again. "I'll earn it, even if it takes years." I believed her. Because betrayal can come from fear, but loyalty shows itself under pressure. We stood together and helped the staff gather what remained. Flowers were boxed, chairs stacked. The arch dismantled piece by piece. As I removed my veil, I felt lighter, not because I'd lost something, but because I'd escaped something. Outside, the sun had shifted. The day was still bright, still alive, still offering itself. My mother waited by the door. "You ready?" she asked. I nodded. As we walked out, I glanced back once more at the empty hall. That was the place I almost disappeared. Instead, it became the place I was reborn. And as the doors closed behind me, I realized something profound. The wedding hadn't failed. It had succeeded at the one thing that mattered. It showed me the truth before it was too late. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into a small hotel across the city, the kind with warm lamps and quiet hallways, the kind where no one knew my name or what I had almost become. I needed a space where the echoes of vows and applause couldn't reach me. I stood in front of the mirror and slowly unpinned my hair. Each pin fell into the sink with a soft clink, like punctuation marks at the end of a sentence I was finally done writing. When the last one dropped, my hair spilled down around my shoulders, heavy and real and mine. I stepped out of the dress. The white fabric slid to the floor, pooling around my feet like shed skin. I stared at myself, barefaced now, mascara smudged, eyes red but sharp. I looked different, not broken, awake. That night, I didn't cry myself to sleep. I slept deeply, like my body had finally been allowed to rest after months of holding its breath. The next morning, sunlight crept through the curtains, slow and gentle. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it all rushed back. The ring, the letter, the aisle, the applause, and something unexpected followed it. Relief. Pure, bone-deep relief. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, messages from friends, family, distant relatives who'd already turned the story into whispers and opinions. I didn't open them yet. One message sat at the top. From Hamza, "We need to talk." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. No explanation. No closure conversation, no final argument. Some doors don't need to be slammed. They just need to be locked. The weeks that followed felt surreal. Lawyers confirmed what the letter had implied, documents drafted, plans half-assembled, intentions hidden behind legal language designed to confuse and control. If I had married him, undoing it would have taken years. Years I would have lost. Mina stood by me through every step. She didn't rush forgiveness. She didn't demand it. She showed up. Again and again. Quietly. Steadily. Trust, I learned, isn't repaired by words. It's rebuilt by patterns. My mother cried once, late one night, holding my hand. "I almost watched you disappear," she said. I squeezed her fingers. "You watched me come back." And that was the truth. One afternoon, weeks later, I went back to the venue. Not for closure, for proof. The space looked smaller without decorations. Ordinary. Neutral. Just a room. I stood at the altar again, alone, and felt nothing but calm. That place no longer held power over me. I did. I took a deep breath and whispered something I'd never said out loud before. Thank you. Not to him. To myself. For listening when my instincts screamed. For standing when it would have been easier to collapse. For choosing truth over fantasy. I walked out without looking back. Months passed. Life reshaped itself around the new truth. I traveled. I learned how silence could be peaceful instead of lonely. I rediscovered parts of myself I'd muted to fit into someone else's vision of a future. And one day, while sorting through old boxes, I found the velvet pouch again. The ring, M+H. For a moment, anger flickered. Then I smiled. I walked to the river near my apartment, the water moving steadily, endlessly forward. I held the ring up, watching the light catch on the dark stone one last time. "That's not my story," I said softly. And I let it go. The ring disappeared beneath the surface without a sound. No drama, no spectacle, just release. People sometimes ask if I'm afraid to trust again. The answer surprises them. No, I say. I'm not afraid of love. I'm afraid of ignoring myself. Because love that requires silence isn't love. Love that needs manipulation isn't love. And love that treats your heart like leverage was never meant to be kept. On my wedding day, my best friend said, "I've been hiding something from you." What I found didn't just change everything. It saved everything. Not the relationship, not the future I imagined, but the one thing that mattered most. Me.